Hi, my name is Cody Archer. I grew up on a farm in Canada, and in 2010 I moved to Israel, but was living in the Jerusalem area in small apartments where I didn't have space to have a garden. Sometimes I grew some tomatoes in a pot or something like that. But over the last decade, I'd been dreaming about one day moving to a place where I'd have space to have my own garden. And so during the Corona crisis, my family and I moved to the north of Israel, to the Golan Heights, and we're living in a place now where you can see behind me, I've planted a garden finally, but I felt really unequipped for this. The conditions in Canada are so much different than here in Israel, and it was at that time that I learned about Ako Haklaut, a sustainable agriculture course based out of Katzrin in a local college. And I'm so thankful that I signed up for this course, and I've learned so many great things. And so I want to take you on a little bit of a journey of what this last year has looked like as I've taken the course and begun planting a garden and implementing many of the things that I've learned through this course. And so come, let's go and check out my garden and see what I learned this year. The space that I had to use for my garden was a space that had never been planted in before, and it was doing a really good job at growing weeds, even though it was being sprayed almost on a yearly basis by my landlord. But I started looking at the area. I began drawing out plans of how big of a garden I wanted, how many rows, how long I wanted them. And then I got to work. I began lifting the dirt and beginning to pull out the rocks, and I had no idea what I was getting into. There were so many rocks. Basically with every shovel full, I would pull up another rock that I'd have to pull out. And so I began preparing these rows. I was adding about 1 to 1.5 bags of compost for every row of about 5 meters. At one point, my landlords asked if I would plant them a lemon tree down in my garden, which I happily agreed to do. And so through some of the things that I learned about fruit trees and how to plant them through our course, I implemented that by digging a large hole, at least 1 meter wide, as deep as I could. And of course, the very place where I want to dig is where I find one of the biggest rocks I could have found. But after removing it and filling it with good rich soil and compost and planting the tree now, after about 6 months, has been thriving. Throughout the year, we spoke a lot about weed control. And so I began experimenting with a couple different methods of keeping the weeds down. One was through wood chips. You can see I have some wood chips here. They're about 10 centimeters thick, and they have been super effective. I'm very happy with the results. You can also see that there's other places where there's dry brown grass. I have a neighbor that every 2 weeks would mow his grass, and he would give me the clippings. And so I would layer the grass around my garden. And it also was effective, but not at the same level as the wood chip. So in the future, I'd love to be able to put much more wood chips throughout much of my garden to keep the weeds down. One of the major mistakes that I made this year was with my water system. When I was laying out my water lines, I was not securing them or tightening them at both ends. So what was happening is the heat would come in the day and then cool in the night. There was a lot of expanding and contracting of my lines, and they were squiggly, they were not straight. And I was putting rocks on top of them to hold them in place. But then later on in the course, we learned how to do that. Throughout this last year, I've been experimenting with growing different varieties of vegetables to see which fruits and vegetables actually work here. And some of them, I've been amazed at how well they've done. For example, these cherry tomatoes, we have had about 3 months this year where we did not buy any cherry tomatoes. Every week I was coming and picking at least a bowl full or more of beautiful cherry tomatoes. You can see this kale behind me, even though it's at the end of its season. It grew fantastically here. We've had an abundance. I've been able to sell some of it. I've been able to give it away to friends, but we've had beautiful kale, and many other vegetables have done very, very well. But things like peppers, for example, they did not do well. So another project that I've been working on over these last few months is building a chicken coop. It's here behind me. Come, I want to show you what I built. So this chicken coop is not on our property, but it's on the neighbor's land. And so we've done this partnership where he's giving us the space. The space is actually 6 meters by 7 meters. And I've done most of the work myself together with a dear friend, Aaron. This coop, I didn't look at anybody's specific designs, though I researched a lot about this online. But because I found so much of this wood from the dump where everybody throws it away and brought it here, that I found it to still be usable, I had to kind of custom design my own coop, and I'm really happy with it. I spent about 3,000 shekels to do all of this here with the fencing, the roofing. I bought some plywood and paint. You can see here that I built a little area for the hens to lay their eggs. I have a PVC feeder where you can fill this up with the feed, and it should be enough food for about 5 days for 8 hens. And then here we have access into the coop. It'd be really easy to clean out about once or twice a month. And then if you come and look under here, you can see the roosting bars. This is where they'll be sleeping at night.